our next presentation today is going to be an update on the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium. And that's an exciting part. I'm going to bring Steve Hambly up in a second to introduce our speaker, who is Hunter Morrison. Most of you know Hunter Morrison, and I was looking over the notes for the introduction, and they omitted one thing which I think is the most interesting thing for me about, because I'm like Steve and I'm like Howard, I'm interested in history. And many of you being planners may have read, Robert Caro is this author who wrote the series on Lyndon Johnson, and his third of 4 biographies it's a mammoth project. It's kind of one of the great biographies ever done. But his first biography was of Robert Moses, and those of you who are planners probably know Robert Moses was the head of something in New York State, but he did all the interstates, and all through the 50s and 60s, he transformed New York City and New York State through the infrastructure projects until he was really stopped in the late 1960s when they say, look, you're running through too many highways through communities and destroying them. And it was a big transition in the way we look at public transportation. But what I was talking to Howard once, to Hunter once, and he did his senior thesis at Yale about Robert Moses and had the opportunity to sit down with this legendary figure in his Manhattan apartment and talk about development and planning. And I just thought that was a great thing to know about Hunter Morrison that most people wouldn't know. But to give the official recognition and introduction to Hunter Morrison's talk about the Sustainable Communities Consortium, I want to bring up Steve Hambly, Medina County Commissioner.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ed. In October 2010, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, awarded $4.25 million to Northeast Ohio as part of the Federal Sustainable Communities Initiative. In January of 2011, the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium was set up to develop a cooperative regional sustainability plan that addresses equitable housing, land use, transportation, community development, water and sewer infrastructure, and economic development issues for a 12-county planning area. The program director of NEOSCC, Hunter Morrison, is with us today to give us a quick update of the progress of the organization has made in the past year and tell us what is coming up. You can read about Hunter in the handout for the speaker biographies in the program. But Hunter, just to summarize, is certainly a consummate planner and regionalist, or as I can say, certainly, he has drunk the regional Kool-Aid with the rest of us. Over the last year and a half with the Sustainable Communities Consortium, he talks about regionalism every day. Every day he lives regionalism. Every waking hour he's probably thinking of regionalism, and I imagine he sometimes, like me, you're dreaming regionalism. But he, like me also, drives regionalism. We both own the only passenger car made in Northeast Ohio, the Chevrolet Cruze, manufactured in Lordstown, Ohio. Having grown up in a family where my dad worked at the Chevrolet plant in Parma, and all my friends' dads worked at the Chevrolet plant in Parma, we have what we can say nowadays as he's got very major street cred, because he is regionalism. Here, there's a saying, a positive attitude may not solve all of your problems, but it will annoy enough people to make it worthwhile. This is a man who can manage to do both at the same time. Thank you very much for coming today, and I present you Hunter Morrison.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, being in public life in Northeast Ohio, we've never owned a non-union car, and being able to buy one that's made in Lordstown, which is really a phenomenal vehicle, has been really great. Before we get going, and I was admonished by many people to be brief, which we know is always difficult. I just want to say that this is a remarkable tradition or transition, and I think Howard gave you a feel for the events that occurred 23 years ago. It was quite a different time. And I would also note that he was employed for 1 year when we asked him to take over a very, very troubled agency. We had a number of other choices of people to do that. As the board, we were looking for someone who would listen, who would build consensus, who is inherently honest and transparent in his own dealings, and would help us build the organization to have credibility and to answer questions such as was posed by Commissioner Mary Boyle of Cuyahoga County. Why do we need this organization in the first place? What is it doing for us? And I think this is testimony today that the board at the time, in the middle of one of the most tumultuous periods of its history, and hopefully the last time we ever go through anything like that, the board made a decision which has yielded today an organization that has got great credibility and is a major platform as we move to the next level of looking at what's going on in Northeast Ohio. It's the spirit of comity, the spirit of openness, the spirit of dialogue that Howard brought to our organization and has continued for 23 years that Grace gives you a strong base to move us to the next level. So I just personally want to thank Howard, and Tom Corrigan is here in the audience who helped to craft the legal documents, but it really was the personal strength of Howard over many, many crises, particularly in the early years, that got us to this point. As you know, I was here a year ago to speak about the consortium. We have had a very interesting year of developing the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium. We have several of the key board members who represent the founding partners. Jason Segedy, who is our board chair this year, who is the executive director of AMATS, one of the four MPOs, John Getchie, the director of Eastgate, which is one of our important platform organizations, the MPO and COG for the three counties of the Mahoning Valley and Ashtabula. And I know there are other members, the Mayor of Elyria, the other staff people that are here. Holly, thank you for coming as well. The last year has been one of growth. We had an initial organization of about 23 that came together to pursue the grant. We have been growing that board at the request of our funders. We now have a 32 member board that represents a broad cross-section of Northeast Ohio. We have also been building our 5 work streams and 2 working groups, which are the core of the organization. We now have brought in about 160 individuals and 120 organizations to share in the work of this organization. The planning process that we are undertaking is, in many ways, for those of you who are planners, a pretty straightforward one of what do we have, what do we want, how do we get there, to develop a regional sustainability action plan and a toolkit. And the founding members in the effort to go after the HUD to Sustainable Communities grant were very clear that we need tools. We need tools to move forward, and that's one of our key goals. But the other 2 are equally, if not more important in terms of lasting impact. One is to develop a common ground for collaboration. Now, we have that in each one of our 4 metropolitan areas, but to develop that across 12 counties is one of our big challenges. The other is to develop the intellectual, institutional, and community capacity to work together. And that is linking and leveraging the capacities of our MPOs, of our universities, of our communities, to be able to ask and answer the hard questions about where we go as a region in the future, to develop that common ground and that capacity for action. Steve Litt asked us when he was writing the very good article that came out in the Cleveland Plain Dealer recently, can you give us some graphics that show what has happened to Northeast Ohio? And it's difficult to sort of pin it to two graphics, in part because the way the census has classified urban areas for the last 40 years differently every census year. But we went back and looked at the census, at the densities of population in 1970. And the thing that is striking about 1970, which is when Howard was tooling around and hot dogs were flying out of the car on 271, and I told Steve Hambley, some buddies of mine actually biked on 271, biked before it was opened. It was a fascinating opportunity. But it was empty at the time, and at the time we had 4 metro areas of clearly focused on their core cities of Cleveland and Akron and Canton and Youngstown and Warren. Lorain and Elyria were quite separate places. The densities were focused, our transportation systems were focused on downtown. everybody worked downtown or in the industrial valleys and centers that were adjoining them. The commuting patterns were basically within each one of the 4 metros. And what has happened over the last 40 years is a growth between the metros, a growth out connecting many of the places. Frankly, our population has not grown. We've lost about 7% of our population since our peak in 1970, but our footprint has grown considerably, and our economic activities have integrated across the region. We are increasingly a singular commuter shed, increasingly connected to each other on a daily basis. When I was 12 years old and went down to in the 5th grade and went to a field trip in Akron, it was a field trip. Today it's a commute. And that's one of the big changes, that these communities have become, our communities have become quite close together, but our bus systems are county-based, our travel demand forecasting is done according to the metros, and we have some challenges to work together and think together. And this is one of the first products of our work. And this is important for planners, geeky planners. This is kind of cool. This is a 12-county region-wide, parcel-based, updatable, disaggregatable land use map. Big deal. It's parcel-based. It's possible for the mayor of Elyria, the mayor of Cleveland, the mayor of, and the planning director in Warren to take this and zoom in. It's based on the work that started at Eastgate some years ago to use county auditors' files and to ramp those up and to see what sort of land use information we can glean from that. Trusting that information because the parcel owners, property owners, and their lawyers who keep us honest. But it also gives us the opportunity to look at various patterns. But the key idea that I want to bring forward to you is this was put together by the GIS workers operations in each one of the MPOs plus Cuyahoga County. Linking and leveraging the tools we have today with the county auditor's files in 12 counties to produce a document that will be updatable and usable for each and every one of our communities. We're also doing that right now on the zoning, so that we have basic and fundamental tools so that we can plan together. Where are we going? Well, I think it's very clear that the sentiment is we do not need another plan. We need we need present and future action on sustainability, capacity building, collaboration, pilot projects, streamlining our zoning and land use codes, complete streets, urban design and placemaking, housing, vacancy, land banking. These are some of the terms that we hear when we talk about sustainability. And we're starting, in addition to the mapping, with a trends and conditions platform that will be published and online and announced at our board meeting on June 26th in Youngstown, Ohio. Now, one of the other things we're doing is to take our board around to each one of the 12 counties over the next 18 months, something we learned from NOACA. But we will talk about the trends and the conditions and trends platform. We started out thinking it was a report, but began to understand that this is a platform that will grow over time. It will establish a common base of information and knowledge by identifying baseline information that serves as a foundation for a dashboard, one of the key tools for the region to measure progress over time, to enable informed regional conversation as we go out through our community engagement process, to bring together constituent communities with shared interest. We've already seen this between Cleveland and Lorain and Elyria and on land banks, and between Cleveland and Cuyahoga County and Trumbull and Mahoning counties on issues of vacant property. We need to also link together our stakeholder base to our processes and efforts and enable over time the capacity for regional effort. As this comes forward, I would suggest that there's some ways to think about this platform. It's not a report. It's a dynamic platform, a dialogue that can be added to and will be added to as a tool for all of our audiences, a narrative that promotes understanding and commitment, a framework that inspires action by evaluating information, gathering additional insight, building our capacity, and an online tool with a four-page summary. These are some of the things that are coming forward. We are this summer, in addition, launching a robust community engagement process across Northeast Ohio, and in each one of the 4 metros. We started with a round of 5 sessions with young leaders in Cleveland and Akron and Canton and Lorain County and in Youngstown. We brought about 350 of the young leaders together. We're going to do that quarterly to engage folks in our deliberations. And we've also just recently announced a region-wide public opinion survey, which is available online, which talks about where people are in the discussion about regional sustainability. What do people know about it? What do people care about it? And this also will be updated 2 more times over the course of our project, and will be available just as the platform is available and the maps are available to the individual metros and communities to break them down, and we intend to do the crosstabs on the public opinion survey, so the MPOs and their communities can also look at what's going on in our area. So this is a brief update. Again, I want to thank the members of NOACA, who for the last year and going forward have been the staff people, such as Cheryl Krakowski, our fiscal officer, who have played a very significant role in birthing this process. In addition to serving as the fiscal officer, they served as our temporary home until the city of Akron came forward with free office space, and the city of Youngstown came forward with free furniture. We have to scrape this thing together a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that each one of the organizations has provided resources. Eastgate is providing us office space and also has been platforming a good deal of our GIS work. So we're walking the talk daily about regional collaboration, and I hope next year to come back and give you another update. Thank you very much.